The fire was dying. 12 warriors tried to save it. 3 elders died trying. Nothing worked. Then the doors opened. Barefoot, torn dress, rope marks on her wrists. The exile walked in. Guards raised weapons. "You can't be here!" She ignored them, walked straight to the flame. The Alpha King lunged forward. "Stop her!" Too late. Her hands went into the fire. It didn't burn her. It bowed. The entire pack dropped to their knees. Because the fire they couldn't save just recognized the Omega they'd thrown away. Wait, so they exiled her for being too quiet, and now their fire literally won't respond to anyone but her? The math isn't mathing. Subscribe to Seraphina's romance stories, because this pack is about to learn some expensive lessons.
Rylan had done everything an alpha was supposed to do. He'd called in blood mages from the Northern Territories. He'd consulted texts so old the pages crumbled when touched. He'd even offered himself his own life to feed the fire. The elders refused. "The fire doesn't want alpha blood anymore," one had said, eyes hollow with fear. "It wants something we don't have." That was 4 hours ago. Now the courtyard smelled like smoke and defeat. The stone beneath Rylan's boots was scorched. The towers around them were cracked. Pieces of blackstone keep crumbling like the pack itself. His beta, Thorn, stood a few feet away, silent. There was nothing left to say. They'd fought wars together, buried packmates, crushed rebellions. But this was different. You can't fight fire with strength. Rylan's mind kept circling back to 3 months ago, to the awakening ceremony, to the Omega who'd stood in this same courtyard, silent and still while the elders declared her unfit. Calliope. She hadn't cried when they bound her wrists, hadn't begged. She'd just looked at him once, just once, and then walked through the gates without a word. Too quiet, they'd said. Too strange. Her presence unsettled the alphas instead of soothing them. An Omega who didn't fit the mold was a flaw, a weakness. So they exiled her. Rylan had watched her go. He hadn't stopped it. Now the fire was dying, and he couldn't stop that either. "Alpha." An elder approached, her face drawn. "If we don't begin the rite soon." "I know," Rylan said. His voice came out flat. The final rite of acceptance. Symbolic surrender. A way to let the pack die with dignity instead of tearing itself apart in madness. He couldn't do it. Wouldn't. Then he heard the footsteps. Bare feet on cold stone. The sound cut through the silence like a blade. The guards turned first, weapons raised, snarls building in their throats. Rylan's head snapped up. Walking through the broken archway was Calliope, the rejected Omega. She wasn't supposed to be here. By law, by scent, by every rule the pack had, she didn't belong to Darkmoon anymore. They'd cast her out, scrubbed her scent from the pack bond, marked her as exile. She was barefoot. Her dress was torn and stained, the fabric hanging loose around her shoulders. Her hair, those dark, wild curls, tangled around her face. The rope marks on her wrists hadn't faded yet. Fresh bruises darkened her brown skin. "Get her out," someone hissed from the crowd. "She'll contaminate the rite." Calliope kept walking. Each step echoed. Rylan turned slowly. He couldn't breathe right. His chest felt tight, compressed. "You were banished," he said. His voice came out rough, strained. "This ground is forbidden to you." "I know," Calliope said. Her voice didn't shake, didn't waver. She stood there in her torn dress, barefoot on freezing stone, and looked him in the eye. "But your fire is dying." The words hung in the air. A murmur rippled through the kneeling warriors. "Low. Dangerous." An elder stepped forward, her face twisted in anger. Bold words for an exile. "You think we haven't tried everything?" Calliope's gaze shifted to the fire. "I know you have." "Then what makes you think?" "Your power is wrong for this." Silence fell. Sharp. Final. Rylan felt rage build in his chest, hot and immediate. She had no right. No right to stand here, to speak to them like this, to act like she belonged when they'd ripped that belonging away from her. But then Calliope took another step, toward the fire. The heat should have stopped her. It should have burned her skin, forced her back like it had forced back every warrior who'd tried. It didn't. And the flame, the dying, guttering flame that had rejected every offering, every sacrifice, leaned toward her, like it recognized her, like it had been waiting. Rylan's breath caught in his throat. Around him, warriors rose to their feet, confusion and shock rippling through the pack bond. Thorn moved closer, hand on his weapon. "Rylan," he said quietly. "What is she?" Rylan didn't know, couldn't answer, because Calliope was kneeling now. Not in submission, not in prayer. She placed her hands around the flame, and the fire began to grow.
Her hands just went into a fire that killed 3 elders, and she's not even screaming yet. Subscribe to Seraphina's romance stories and comment what time you're watching. Are you here at 2 a.m. spiraling with me? Because it gets worse.
"Stop her." Rylan's voice cut through the courtyard. Sharp. Final. No one moved, because the fire was growing. Not slowly, not gently. It was climbing, reaching, the flames stretching upward like it was waking from a long sleep. Calliope's hands were still wrapped around it. Her fingers trembled, not from fear, from the strain of holding something that wanted to explode. "I said stop her," Rylan roared. Thorn stepped forward, then froze. The heat radiating from the fire wasn't normal anymore. It pulsed. It breathed. The air around Calliope shimmered. An elder pushed through the crowd, her face twisted in fury. "Remove the exile. She's contaminating the Heartfire. She'll destroy what little we have left." Calliope didn't look up, didn't flinch. The fire leaned toward her again. This time it was undeniable. The flame bent, curled around her wrists like it was trying to touch her, to hold her. "By the gods," someone whispered. Rylan felt it then. Through the pack bond. Not power, not dominance. Something else. Something that made his alpha instincts go quiet for the first time in his life. Alignment. Like a bone snapping back into place after being broken for years. Rylan moved, without thinking. He crossed the courtyard in 3 strides, grabbed Calliope's shoulder, and tried to pull her back. The moment his hand touched her, the fire roared. Heat slammed into him. Not burning. Warning. He stumbled backward, his hand smoking. The pack bond screamed in his head. Confusion. Fear. Something primal he couldn't name. "Don't touch her," Thorn said quietly. "Rylan, whatever's happening, don't touch her." Calliope's eyes were closed now, her breathing shallow. Sweat broke across her forehead, dripping down her temples. The fire climbed higher. Taller than a man. Taller than 2. "This is wrong," the elder hissed. "She's an Omega. She has no authority over sacred fire. This is forbidden." "Then why is it working?" Rylan snapped. Silence. Because it was working. The pack could feel it. The bond that had been fraying, unraveling like a rope coming apart, it was tightening, stabilizing. The fire wasn't dying anymore. It was coming back. Calliope's hands shifted. She pressed her palms flat against the flame, fingers splaying wide. The heat should have melted her skin. Should have burned through bone. It didn't. But it wasn't gentle either. Her skin blistered. Red welts rose along her palms, spreading up her wrists. Blood welled where the heat finally bit deep enough to break through. It dripped into the fire, sizzling, feeding it. Calliope gasped. A small sound. Choked. Rylan's chest tightened. "Calliope. Don't," she said through gritted teeth. "Don't stop me." He wanted to. Every instinct he had screamed at him to pull her away, to protect her. But his body wouldn't move. Couldn't. Because he could feel what she was doing. She wasn't forcing the fire. Wasn't commanding it. She was listening to it. Matching its rhythm. Breathing with it. The fire didn't need strength. It needed stillness. Rylan's mind flashed back to 3 months ago, the night they cast Calliope out. She'd stood in this courtyard, silent, still. The elders had demanded her exile because she unsettled the alphas. Because she didn't behave like other omegas. Didn't soothe. Didn't submit. She just existed. Calm. Grounded. And that terrified them. Rylan had watched the guards bind her wrists. Watched them march her past the gates. He'd told himself it was pack law. Necessary. Right. But he'd seen her face as she left. Not angry. Not broken. Just tired. And now she was here. Barefoot and bleeding. Saving the pack that threw her away. The fire surged. A shock wave rippled outward, slamming into the warriors. Some fell to their knees. Others stumbled backward, armor clanging against stone. The flame exploded upward, roaring, brilliant, alive. Calliope screamed. The sound tore through the courtyard. Raw. Agonized. Her body arched backward, spine bending at an impossible angle. The fire didn't just grow. It poured into her. Through her. Light blazed beneath her skin, tracing her veins like lightning trapped under glass. Calliope. Rylan lunged forward. Thorn grabbed him, held him back. You'll kill her if you touch her now. She's dying. She's saving us. The pack bond snapped into place. Not gently, like a whip cracking. Wolves across the courtyard cried out, doubling over. Some collapsed. Others clutched their chests, gasping. The bond was whole again. Strong. Unbreakable. The Heartfire towered above them now. Taller than the gates. Brighter than it had been in generations. The light flooded the courtyard, driving back shadows, warming stone that had been cold for hours. The pack was saved. But Calliope fell forward. Her hands slipped from the fire. Her body went limp. She crumpled onto the stone, motionless. Rylan broke free from Thorn's grip and caught her before her head struck the ground. She was light. Too light. Like holding a shadow. Calliope, he whispered. His voice cracked. Stay with me. Her eyes fluttered open. Barely. Unfocused. Did it work? She breathed. The Heartfire blazed behind them. Strong. Alive. Roaring. Yes, Rylan said hoarsely. You did what an entire pack couldn't. Her lips curved faintly. Good. Then her pulse faltered. He felt it. Through the bond. Through his hands on her skin. Her heart was stopping. Get the healers. Rylan bellowed, lifting her into his arms. Now. Warriors scrambled. Elders fell to their knees. Not in ritual. In shame. The healers arrived within seconds. 3 of them. They dropped to their knees beside Rylan, hands already glowing with healing light. Move, Alpha, the lead healer said. Her name was Mira. She'd been with the pack for 40 years. We need space. No. Rylan's arms tightened around Calliope. You work here. Mira didn't argue. She pressed her hands to Calliope's chest, light flooding beneath her palms. The other healers moved quickly, checking pulse points, muttering incantations. Calliope's breathing was shallow. Too shallow. Her skin had gone gray. Her core temperature is dropping, one healer said. She's going into shock. Then fix it, Rylan growled. Behind them, the Heartfire roared. Stronger than it had been in generations. The light was blinding, flooding the courtyard, driving back every shadow. The pack bond hummed. Solid. Unbreakable. But the Omega who'd saved it was dying in his arms. An elder approached. Not the one who'd demanded Calliope's removal. A different one. Older. Her face was pale, eyes wide with something that looked like recognition. Alpha, she whispered. The fire. Look at the base. I don't care about the fire right now. You need to see this. Rylan looked up. The elder was staring at the Heartfire with an expression he couldn't read. Fear. Awe. Shame. He followed her gaze. At the base of the flame, carved into the stone platform, were symbols. Old symbols. So old the pack had stopped reading them centuries ago. They glowed now, lit from within by the fire's light. Omega sigils.
Hold on. Their sacred fire was built on an Omega sacrifice 300 years ago, and the Alphas just forgot? Rewrote the history. Yeah, they deserved to almost go extinct. I said what I said.
No, Thorn said quietly. He'd moved closer, was staring at the symbols too. That can't be right. It is right, the elder said. Her voice shook. I remember now. My grandmother told me stories when I was young, before the council made her stop. What stories? Rylan demanded. The elder knelt. Not in respect. In shame. The Heartfire wasn't created by Alphas, Rylan. It was born from an Omega sacrifice. 300 years ago, during the territory wars, the pack was fracturing. Wolves were going feral. The land was dying. She gestured to the symbols. An Omega offered herself. She walked into the flames willingly. Her stillness anchored the pack. Her presence stabilized the bond. The fire was born from her sacrifice. Myra's hand stilled on Calliope's chest, and the Alphas rewrote the history. The elder nodded. They said the fire was created through strength, through dominance. They built rituals around power and blood because that's what Alphas understood. But the fire never needed that. It needed balance, Rylan said. His voice came out flat, hollow, because he understood now. The pack had spent generations feeding the fire the wrong thing. Dominance, authority, force. And the fire had slowly starved. Until Calliope. She's not weak, Mira said softly. She was still working, light pouring from her hands into Calliope's chest. Her silence isn't a flaw. It's grounding. Rylan looked down at Calliope. Her face was peaceful despite the pain. Despite everything. He remembered the awakening ceremony. The way she'd stood in the center of the courtyard, silent and still, while the Alphas circled her. They'd called her unsettling. Wrong. They'd said her presence made them uncomfortable. Because she didn't react to their dominance. Didn't bend. Didn't submit. She just existed. Calm. Grounded. And that had terrified them. She's an anchor, the elder whispered. The fire recognized what we refused to see. Around them, the pack was changing. Wolves who'd been kneeling in defeat were standing now. Crying. The bond between them had been weak for months, fraying at the edges, unstable. Now it was solid. Strong. The borders stabilized. Rylan could feel it. The territory that had been collapsing, vulnerable to rival packs, was whole again. Everything was fixed. Except Calliope. How is she? Rylan asked. Mira didn't answer immediately. She kept working, light flickering. The other healers exchanged glances. Her heart is beating, Mira finally said. Barely. She's burned through everything. Every ounce of energy. Every reserve. Can you save her? I don't know. The words hit like a blow. Rylan's chest tightened. He looked down at Calliope again. She was so light in his arms. Too light. Like she'd poured everything she was into the fire and had nothing left. He'd exiled her. Watched her walk through the gates. Let the pack scrub her scent from the bond like she'd never existed. And she'd come back anyway. To save them. We need to move her to the infirmary, Mira said. Now. Rylan stood, lifting Calliope easily. She didn't wake. Didn't stir. Warriors moved aside as he walked. Some knelt. Others bowed their heads. The elders who demanded her exile were on their knees now, faces streaked with tears. Too late for shame, Rylan thought bitterly. Thorn fell into step beside him. The council will want to convene. The council can wait, Rylan. I'm not leaving her. Thorn went quiet. They walked through the gates, past the cracked towers, into the keep. The hallways were warm now. The Heartfire's light reached every corner, driving out the cold that had settled in. The pack was saved. The territory was whole. The bond was strong. But none of it mattered if Calliope didn't wake up. Mira pushed open the infirmary doors. Inside, beds lined the walls. Soft light. Clean sheets. Rylan laid Calliope down on the nearest one, careful not to jostle her. Her hands were still blistered. Blood crusted around her palms where the fire had burned deepest. "Everyone out," Mira said quietly. "I need space to work." The other healers moved to comply. Rylan didn't move. "Alpha, I'm staying." Mira looked at him. Something shifted in her expression. Not defiance. Understanding. She nodded once. "Then stay out of my way." Rylan pulled a chair close to the bed and sat. He didn't take his eyes off Calliope. Her chest rose and fell. Shallow breaths. Barely there. Behind them, through the windows, the Heartfire blazed. Strong. Alive. Everything the pack had wanted. And it had cost the one person they'd thrown away.
Subscribe to Seraphina's romance stories because the pack is saved, but Calliope might die, and I'm not okay. Drop a comment with your time zone. Are you watching this at 3 a.m. emotionally destroyed like me? Because we need to talk about this.
The hours crawled. Rylan sat in that chair and watched Calliope breathe. Each breath was too shallow, too slow. Mira worked quietly, hands glowing with healing light, but her face stayed tight with worry. "Anything?" Rylan asked. "Her pulse is stabilizing," Mira said. "Barely. But she's lost too much. I don't know if she has the strength to come back from this." Rylan's jaw clenched. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and stared at Calliope's face. Peaceful, like she was sleeping. But her skin was still gray. Her lips pale. The blisters on her hands had been treated, wrapped in clean bandages. But he could still see the edges. Red. Raw. She'd burned herself to save them. And he'd let her be exiled. The memory hit him hard. Sharp. 3 months ago. The council chamber. Stone walls. Heavy oak table. 12 elders sitting in judgment. Calliope had stood in the center of the room. Silent. Still. Her awakening ceremony had been the night before, and the Alphas were already complaining. "She unsettles us," one had said. "Omegas are supposed to soothe. To calm. But when she's near, I feel wrong. Unbalanced," another agreed. "Like something's off." The head elder had looked at Rylan. "What do you think, Alpha?" Rylan had looked at Calliope. She wasn't crying, wasn't begging, just standing there. Calm. Grounded. He'd felt it too. That strange pull. Not attraction. Not dominance. Something else. Something that made his alpha instincts quiet down in a way that felt uncomfortable. "If the pack is unsettled," Rylan had said slowly, "then we follow pack law." He hadn't said exile. Hadn't said the words out loud. But everyone knew what he meant. Calliope's expression hadn't changed. She'd just nodded once. Like she'd expected it. They'd bound her wrists that night, marched her through the gates, scrubbed her scent from the pack bond. Rylan had watched from the tower, told himself it was necessary. Right. He'd never asked her why she didn't fight back. Now, sitting in the infirmary, he understood. She hadn't been weak. She'd been tired. Tired of trying to fit into a system that was built wrong. The door opened. Thorn stepped inside, his face grim. Behind him, 3 elders filed in. The same ones who'd voted for Calliope's exile. "We need to talk," one said. Her name was Alara. White hair. Sharp eyes. "About the Omega." Rylan didn't look up. "Get out." "Alpha, this is important." I said get out. Alara's jaw tightened. "The pack is talking. They saw what she did. Some are calling her sacred. Others think she's a threat." "A threat?" Rylan's head snapped up. His voice dropped to a growl. "She saved us. She manipulated the Heartfire," another elder said. His name was Corin. Thin. Nervous. "No Omega should have that kind of power. It's unnatural." "Unnatural?" Thorn stepped forward. "You just spent hours trying to save the fire and failed. She succeeded. That's not unnatural. That's what we needed." "She's an exile," Alara insisted. "Pack law is clear. She violated her banishment by returning. The penalty is death." Rylan stood. Slowly. The chair scraped against the floor. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. If you think I'm going to execute the Omega who saved this pack, you're out of your mind. We're not asking you to execute her, Corrin said quickly. But she needs to be restrained, monitored. We don't know what she is. She's what we threw away. Rylan cut him off. She's what we needed all along and we're too arrogant to see. Silence. Alara's face flushed. You're letting emotion cloud your judgment.
No.
Rylan's voice was cold. I let tradition cloud my judgment 3 months ago. I let fear cloud it. I upheld a system that almost destroyed us because I was too afraid to question it. He took a step forward. Calliope walked into a fire that rejected every alpha, every elder, every warrior we threw at it. She burned herself to stabilize the bond. And you want to restrain her? Corrin opened his mouth. Closed it. Here's what's going to happen, Rylan said. You're going to leave this room. You're going to tell the pack that Calliope is under my protection. And if anyone tries to touch her, they answer to me. Alara stiffened. You're making a mistake. I already made my mistake, Rylan said quietly. I'm not making another one. The elders left. Slowly, reluctantly. Thorn stayed behind, leaning against the wall. That was a declaration, he said. I know. The council won't like it. I don't care. Thorn was quiet for a moment. Then, she might not wake up, Rylan. Rylan sat back down. I know that too. The night stretched on. Mira checked Calliope's pulse every hour. Each time, she frowned. Each time, Rylan's chest tightened. Her body is trying to recover, Mira said around midnight. But she burned through everything. I've never seen exhaustion like this. Can you do anything else? Rylan asked. I'm doing everything I can. It wasn't enough. Rylan could see it. Calliope's breathing was too shallow. Her heartbeat too faint. He reached out, hesitated, then took her hand. Carefully. Her fingers were cold. The bandages rough under his palm. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have stopped them. Should have questioned it. Should have. He stopped. Because what good were apologies to someone who might not wake up? The window behind them showed the night sky. The third moon had set hours ago. Dawn was close now. Maybe an hour away. If Calliope didn't wake soon, her fingers twitched. Rylan's head snapped up. Calliope. Her eyelids fluttered. Opened slowly. Unfocused. She blinked once. Twice. Her gaze found his face. Rylan. Her voice was barely a whisper. Hoarse. I'm here. He leaned closer. Don't try to move. Did it work? She asked. Of course. Of course, that was her first question. Yes, Rylan said. His throat felt tight. The fire is stable. The pack bond is strong. The territory is secure. Calliope's eyes closed briefly. Relief washed over her face. Good. You almost died, Rylan said. You're still, Calliope, you need to rest. I will. Her eyes opened again. Focused on him. But first, the pack. Are they okay? No anger. No bitterness. No accusation. Just concern. For the pack that had cast her out. Rylan's chest ached. They're fine. Better than fine. Because of you. Calliope's lips curved faintly. Then it was worth it. No, Rylan said. The word came out harsh. It wasn't worth it. You shouldn't have had to. We failed you. I failed you. She looked at him for a long moment. You did what you thought was right. I was wrong. I know. The simplicity of it hit him harder than anger would have. No dramatics. No tears. Just acknowledgement. Calliope's eyes started to close again. I'm tired. Then sleep, Rylan said quickly. Myra's here. I'm here. You're safe. Okay. Her voice was fading. Don't leave. I won't. Her hand relaxed in his. Her breathing evened out. But this time it was deeper. Steadier. Mira moved forward, checked her pulse, and nodded. She's stable, Mira said softly. Whatever that was talking to you, it helped. She's fighting now. Rylan didn't let go of her hand. Outside, the sky was turning gray. Dawn was coming. The Heartfire's light still blazed across the keep, visible even through the infirmary windows. The pack would be gathering soon. Warriors, elders, everyone who'd witnessed what happened in the courtyard. They'd want answers, explanations. They'd want to know what happened next. Thorn stepped closer. You need to address them. I know. What are you going to say? Rylan looked down at Calliope. Her face was peaceful now. Color was slowly returning to her skin. The bandages on her hands were stark white against the sheets. The truth, Rylan said. He stood. Let go of her hand carefully. Mira moved to take his place, sitting beside the bed. Stay with her, Rylan said. Don't let anyone in except Thorn. Where are you going? Mira asked. Rylan straightened, adjusted his torn cloak. His crown sat crooked on his head. He didn't fix it. To face my pack. The courtyard was already full when Rylan stepped through the gates. Warriors, elders, omegas, betas. The entire pack had gathered. They stood in silence, faces turned toward the Heartfire. It blazed behind the raised stone platform, taller than the towers, brighter than it had been in generations. Dawn was breaking. The sky had shifted from black to gray to pale gold. Rylan walked through the crowd. They parted for him. Some bowed their heads. Others stared. Everyone was waiting. Thorn had assembled them, called them here for what he'd termed the Alpha's address. But this wasn't going to be a speech. Not the kind they expected. Rylan climbed the stone steps to the platform. The fire's heat washed over him. Familiar. Stable. Strong. Everything the pack had fought for. Behind him, the crowd shifted. Murmurs rippled through them. Because walking through the gates, supported by two healers, was Calliope. She was awake. Barely. Her face was still pale, her steps unsteady. But she was standing. The healers had wrapped a clean cloak around her shoulders, but her feet were still bare on the stone. The bandages on her hands were stark white against her brown skin. Mira had argued against bringing her. She's too weak. She needs to be here, Rylan had said. This is about her. Now Calliope stood at the base of the platform, looking up at him. Her expression was unreadable. Calm. Grounded. Like always. Rylan turned to face his pack. Hundreds of faces staring back at him, waiting for him to speak, to explain, to command. He removed his crown. The movement was slow, deliberate. He pulled the twisted metal from his head and held it in his hands. The crown was bent from the night's chaos. Tarnished. Heavy. The crowd went silent. Rylan descended the steps. Not all the way. Just enough to stand level with Calliope. Then he did something no Alpha King of Darkmoon had ever done in 300 years of pack history. He knelt. Gasps tore through the crowd. Alara stepped forward, face twisted in shock. Alpha, what are you? Silence, Rylan said. His voice wasn't loud. Didn't need to be. The authority was still there. But it was different now. Not dominance. Something else. He looked up at Calliope. She was staring down at him, eyes wide. Confused. 3 months ago, Rylan said, speaking loud enough for the entire pack to hear, this pack held a council. We judged an Omega at her awakening ceremony. We said she was a flaw, a weakness, something wrong. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. We said she unsettled us, Rylan continued. That her presence made us uncomfortable. That Omegas were supposed to soothe, to calm, and she didn't fit that mold. He looked around at the warriors, the elders, the faces he'd known for years. So we exiled her, bound her wrists, scrubbed her scent from the pack bond, marched her through the gates and told her she didn't belong here. Calliope's expression hadn't changed, but her hands, still bandaged, trembled slightly. I stood in that council, Rylan said. I upheld pack law. I told myself it was necessary. Right. That the pack's comfort mattered more than one Omega's place in it. He placed his crown on the stone between them. The metal scraped against the ground. I was wrong. The words echoed across the courtyard. Last night, the Heartfire was dying. We tried everything. Blood sacrifice. Rituals. Magic. 12 warriors bled themselves. 3 elders collapsed from exhaustion. Nothing worked. Rylan's jaw clenched. Because we were feeding the fire the wrong thing. We were trying to give it power, dominance,
Force.
everything alphas understand. He gestured to the blazing flame behind them. But the Heartfire wasn't built on alpha strength. It was built on Omega sacrifice. 300 years ago, an Omega walked into the flames willingly. Her stillness anchored the pack. Her presence stabilized the bond. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Confusion.
Shock.
The alphas who came after rewrote that history, Rylan said.
They centered themselves.
Built rituals around dominance. And slowly, generation by generation, the fire starved. He looked back at Calliope. Until her. Calliope's eyes were shining now. Not with tears. With something else. The Omega we exiled walked back through these gates, Rylan said. Barefoot.
Marked.
Forbidden by law to be here. And she saved us. He bowed his head.
Fully.
Forehead touching the stone. She did what an entire pack couldn't. What I couldn't. And I will carry that failure longer than any scar. Silence stretched. Heavy. Absolute. Rylan raised his head. Looked up at Calliope. By my blood, by my crown, and by the fire you saved, I name you Pack Anchor of Darkmoon. The crowd erupted.
Gasps. Shouts.
Some warriors dropped to their knees immediately. Others stared in disbelief. Alara pushed forward. Alpha, you can't. This isn't how succession works. I'm not talking about succession, Rylan said. His voice cut through the noise. I'm talking about balance. He stood.
Slowly.
Turned to face the pack. For 300 years, this pack has been built on alpha dominance.
On strength. On force.
And it almost destroyed us. He gestured to Calliope. She is the balance we forgot existed. The anchor we threw away. From this moment forward, the Darkmoon Pack stands on two pillars, not one. Thorn stepped forward. He looked at Calliope. Then at Rylan. Then he knelt. One by one, the warriors followed, dropping to their knees. Not in submission. In acknowledgement. The elders were the last. Alara's face was pale. Corin looked shaken. But slowly they knelt too. The entire pack. Kneeling. Calliope was still standing, staring at the kneeling pack. At Rylan. You rejected me, she said quietly. The words cut through the silence like a blade. Rylan met her gaze. I did. You stood in that council and said nothing. I did. You watched them bind my wrists and scrub my scent away. I did. Rylan's voice was steady. Not defensive. Just honest. I failed you. I upheld a system I should have questioned. I let fear and tradition blind me to what was right in front of me. Calliope's jaw tightened. And now you kneel. Now I kneel, Rylan agreed. Not because you saved the fire. Not because the pack needs you. But because you deserved better than what we gave you. He took a step closer. I can't undo the exile. Can't erase the months you spent alone. Can't take back the pain. His voice dropped. But I can promise you this. It won't happen again. Not to you. Not to any Omega this pack decides doesn't fit their idea of what Omega should be. Calliope stared at him. The healers supporting her had stepped back, giving them space. The entire pack was watching. You think a title fixes this? She asked. No, Rylan said. But it's a start. Calliope looked past him. At the Heartfire. At the pack kneeling in courtyard. At the dawn breaking over Blackstone Keep. I didn't come back for recognition, she said. I know. I came back because the fire was dying. Because I could feel it. Because she stopped. Took a breath. Because I couldn't let the pack fall apart, even after everything. Rylan's chest tightened. Why? Calliope's lips curved faintly. Not quite a smile. Because someone had to remember what balance actually means. She took a step forward. The movement was unsteady, but she didn't let the healers help her. She climbed the stone steps slowly, barefoot, until she stood beside Rylan on the platform. The Heartfire blazed behind them.
Warm. Alive.
strong. If I accept this, Calliope said quietly, things change. Not just for me, for the entire pack. I know, Rylan said. Omegas won't be silent anymore. Won't be pushed aside when they don't fit the mold. Good. Calliope looked at him. Really looked at him. Searching for something. Whatever she found, it was enough. She nodded once. Then I accept. The pack rose. Not all at once, but slowly. Warriors. Betas. Omegas. Elders. They stood and watched as Calliope turned to face them. The sun broke over the horizon. Golden light flooded the courtyard, mixing with the Heartfire's glow. Calliope stood barefoot on the stone platform, the torn cloak around her shoulders, bandages white against her skin. She looked small, fragile, but the fire burned strong behind her. The pack bond hummed, stable, unbreakable, and for the first time no one looked away. Rylan remained kneeling, not because he had to, because he chose to. His crown still lay on the stone between them. Power had shifted, not through force, not through dominance, through acknowledgement, through balance. The warriors began to disperse slowly. Some lingered, staring at the fire. Others approached the platform, bowing their heads to Calliope. Not in submission, in respect. Thorn moved beside Rylan. You know this changes everything. That's the point, Rylan said. Calliope looked down at him. Her expression was still calm, still grounded. But there was something else there now. Not forgiveness. Not quite. But maybe the beginning of it. You can stand now, she said. Can I? Rylan asked. You're still the Alpha, Calliope said. But you're not the only one holding this pack together anymore. Rylan stood. Slowly. He picked up his crown, but didn't put it back on. Just held it. The sun climbed higher. The Heartfire's light mixed with dawn, painting the courtyard gold and orange and red. And for the first time in Darkmoon history, power did not sit on a throne. It stood barefoot in the firelight, unbroken, unbowed, and finally seen.
Calliope accepted the title from the man who exiled her. That's either growth or exhaustion, I can't tell which. Subscribe and drop a comment. What time are you watching, and do you think she should have walked away? Because I'm still not sure forgiveness was the right move here.